Visiting New York City in 2024, then you need to listen to these insider tips. In this video, I'm gonna cover the most incredible hacks and things you need to know before visiting so you can navigate New York City like a pro and fit in like a local. Plus, we're gonna talk about the neighborhood that you should never stay in. Hint, it's not where you think. So with that, let's get to it. Embrace yourself for more mind-blowing New York City tips. In my part 2 video, it will revolutionize your trip and is an absolute essential to watch. That video is linked in the description. Don't you dare miss it. Don't spend too much time in Times Square. There's only one reason you should come here, and that is for this. Broadway. Yeah, Broadway's definitely the highlight of Times Square. Sure, you can come here for a selfie, and I totally understand why you would want to see Times Square. I don't think you should not come to Times Square. Just don't expect that you're going to be spending all your time here, because really, it's just filled with overpriced shops, scams, and tourist crap. The nicest way possible. But there are some hidden gems, like this thing right here. This is called the recharge station. And every time I have the unfortunate scenario of having to be in Times Square as a local, I come here. You wanna know why? Free water, free coffee, and today it's free lemonade. It's an amazing benefit of Times Square, and most people don't realize that it's actually free, because in Times Square, there's so many like scams that when someone says, oh, this is free, it's like, is it though? This actually is. So when you're here, check this out. They're open until 3 every day, completely free. Water, coffee, sometimes lemonade. It's awesome. So this is a more private tip from me to you, and that is there are not a lot of good public bathroom options here in the city. It's very frustrating, especially if you're pregnant, like me. Go to the bathroom before you leave wherever you're at. So if you're at a restaurant, even if you don't think you have to go, just go. If you're leaving a museum, just go. Trust me, because there's nothing worse than being out exploring the streets of New York and having an impossible time trying to find a bathroom to use, because most places won't let you use their bathroom unless you buy something. I have a few tactics that I've found works very effectively over the years, and a few places that like always have bathrooms. Most hotels, you can walk in the lobby and the bathroom is on the first floor. Now, if you walk with confidence and just walk straight to the back, you're gonna probably end up seeing a sign for the bathroom somewhere. Just act confidently and act like you're staying there, and they almost never stop you. If you have a child with you or you're pregnant, they'll most likely let you use it for free. If you don't, they'll be hesitant. But bars, especially crowded bars, aren't keeping track of how many people are ordering drinks. You could walk into the bar and just head straight to the back, maybe acting like you're trying to find friends, and go use their bathroom and then exit. Those are some tactics that I have found work really well. Now, unlike most places in the US where Starbucks have bathrooms, they don't have bathrooms here. They lock them or they're really gross. Instead, just try to use the bathroom beforehand. There are public places that have bathrooms like Grand Central, the New York Public Library, things like this. Other than that, it is going to be a bit of a challenge. Okay, that's all I gotta say about bathrooms. When you come here, you need to try some of the unique experiences that can be only found in New York City. One of the newest and most fun ones, if you're into spies, James Bond, all of that type of CIA stuff, is this one. This is Spy Games. It's an immersive experience where you get to try out different games that were designed by the CIA and the special ops. All right, let's go inside and do it. If you're looking for brain-teasing, pulse-racing fun, this is it. You'll start creating your spy profile, then it is off to the games. Let's go. Hit the blue.
Other players stay in the green start zone.
Blue, just go, Louis. Go, you're so slow.
Oh, sorry.
Each room is completely different, and that's what makes this so exciting. You're dodging lasers, solving puzzles, and racing against the clock in high-tech rooms that make you feel like you're in a real-life spy movie.
Go!
My husband and I tried it out, and even though I was pregnant, I could still participate in almost everything because it's fun social gaming perfect for teams of 2 to 5. Trust me, there's something for everyone. Oh God. Oh.
You could have gotten zapped right there.
And what I love about spy games is how it blends mental and physical challenges. One minute you're cracking codes, and the next you're scaling walls or throwing objects at targets. You can choose the physical route or the mental route. So like if you're pregnant doing this, you can do the mental route, and then you don't have to jump around.
My advice, book your tickets online in advance because it gets popular and you want to make sure you get your preferred time slot. Oh, and don't forget your discount code SpyGameSarah to save 10% on your booking, of course.
This next tip is something that I do in every new city I go to, whether it be London, Venice, Paris, or New York. And that is taking a walking tour the first or second day you're here. And the reason is because it gets you acquainted with the city. And often I'll choose a walking tour that is either a food tour so I can learn about the local cuisine and then tailor the rest of my trip to trying more of the types of food that I really liked on the food tour, or I'll do a tour where it's about the top attractions. So, you know, like if you're visiting Paris, you want to see the Eiffel Tower. If you're visiting New York, you're gonna want to see the Brooklyn Bridge. You're gonna want to see Times Square, you know, briefly. You're gonna want to see these iconic sites. And for that, I highly recommend checking out my walking tours. I've designed them specifically for this reason. And because I've taken so many tours around the world, I've taken the best aspects of those types of tours and made my own version here in New York. So I recommend taking our must-see Manhattan tour to get an overview of the classic sites of the city. Here you're gonna see Grand Central, you're gonna see Times Square, Broadway, Fifth Avenue. You're gonna learn all about like the things you see in the movies. If you're a foodie, take our food tour. This food tour, you get to try 5 different dishes from iconic eateries around the city and taste a little bit of what makes New York City famous. And then if you want to learn a little bit about the downtown area where you see the Statue of Liberty, the Brooklyn Bridge, take our must-see downtown tour. And with those 3 tours, I've designed it so that you will see all of the highlights of the city while you're here. And it's something that I would do if I was in another city. And that's why I designed it for you guys. You can find that all on funkyexperiences.com. Do not stay in Midtown. This is the biggest mistake I think tourists make when they come to New York City, is staying here in the lovely Times Square area. Let me tell you what will happen if you stay here. First off, you're gonna be targeted for all the scams. Second, you're gonna pay around 3 times the price of a hotel that you could get an equivalent value anywhere else in the city. This is where 100% of the tourists stay. Locals do not come here. The only time I come here is when I'm filming. Instead, I recommend you stay in Long Island City, Queens. It's only about a 15-minute subway ride to get to Midtown Manhattan, where you have a lot of the attractions. You can see a Broadway show easily, and it's a third of the price. That's right. Now I have a whole video on where to stay in New York City where I show you the different neighborhoods that I recommend and even give you hotel recommendations that I have personally tried out and approve of. So I will link that video below and you can check it out so that you save your money. Don't waste it by staying here, because the reality is you're gonna come here eventually. You don't need to stay here the whole time. Trust me, it's not gonna be a good experience. Avoid the scams. There are, unfortunately, a lot of scams here in New York City. Most of them you will find in tourist attractions. And that's because, unlike locals, tourists don't know what's not normal, and scammers rely on that. There's a lot of different types of scams. Some are just more like touristy experiences that you're gonna be overcharged for, like taking a picture with this giant gorilla. They'll ask for $20, I'm not kidding, to take a picture. But then there's worse ones, like the Buddhist monks, and you'll see them all throughout Times Square. You'll see them in Central Park. You'll see them on the Brooklyn Bridge. Really any like very iconic New York location. These Buddhist monks essentially will lie to you and say that they are Buddhist monks, which they are not, by the way. They are scammers, and ask you to write on a piece of paper your name and your donation in exchange for like a bracelet, which they'll put on your hand right away and say it's for their temple. Oh, there's one. I've done a lot of work here, and I have to say, I've seen less people get scammed. And if you watch my videos, you are not gonna be one of the ones that get scammed. So congrats to that. Now, I have a whole video on all the other scams, because unfortunately there are other scams here in New York City. Watch that video so you're prepared. Then that can save your money and do cooler things. It's a win-win. Let's talk a little bit about safety, because I know that's something that is a concern to all travelers, no matter where you're going. New York, for the most part, is very safe. There are a few tips that I definitely recommend when you're traveling with your phone. Keep your phone in your front pocket. Don't put it in your back pocket. Phones being stolen is one of the most common crimes that happen in New York, and most of the time it's in Midtown because that's where most of the tourists are. If you have a purse, don't let it fall to the back of your body. I see this all the time. It can be very easily snatched. I always recommend bags that have zippers. I know this sounds very simple, but you'd be amazed at how many people come with these bags that have no zipper, so it's really easy to reach your hand into, like the Louis Vuitton bag, for example, that classic one. A lot of people have that. It's literally a thief's dream, so just avoid that. New York's safe, so don't worry. There's cops everywhere. We have the largest police force in the entire United States. There's even an individual police force just for Times Square. So you're in good hands here. Don't worry too much. You're safe. Book everything ahead of time. I'm talking restaurants, hotels, attractions. The reason is because New York City has 8 million people that live here and about 60 million people that visit annually. The bottom line is, reservations fill up very fast here. So if you have a restaurant that you've always wanted to go to, especially if it's a Michelin star restaurant, make sure you book that as far in advance as possible. Most Michelin star restaurants will open their books between 1 to 2 months in advance, and just have that on your calendar so that you can get in, because you don't want to come all the way here and then find out the place that you wanted to go is not available. This is the same thing with Broadway shows and many attractions in the city. And if you need help, I have a concierge service that you can use. We plan your trip to New York City. I'll link more information about that in the video description so that you don't have to worry about the hassle of planning or deciding really what to do. We'll plan it all for you and book it all for you. How convenient is that? You can't come to New York without seeing a Broadway show. The only problem is Broadway shows are often very expensive. Now, one of the best hacks to getting discounted Broadway tickets is coming here to the TKTS booth. This is kind of more of a well-known hack, as you can see from the line of people back here. And this is also important to mention that if you want to see a hit show like Hamilton, The Lion King, things like that, you're probably not gonna get those tickets here, because this is for same day show tickets when the show is trying to fill seats. So you will get discounts. There's other ways to get discounts too that may give you more of a discount than you'll get here at the TKTS booth. One is through BroadwayBox.com. Another, you might find something nice through Groupon. Or you can use the Theater Development Fund, which gives you about 70% off Broadway tickets. But there's more ways than that. And as someone who's worked on Broadway, I can tell you a bit more info on this. One way is doing a lottery. Now, this is definitely more like gambling because you may not actually get to get those tickets. But essentially, a lottery means you show up to the theater, and not all shows do this, by the way. They'll tell you when they do it. You'll show up to the theater the day of, and they'll be giving away like 10 seats, maybe in the front row, because those aren't the best seats, for $25 or something insanely cheap. Put your name in, and if you get your name pulled, then you get those tickets, which is really awesome. I know that Lion King and Aladdin do this. Another way is through standing room only seats. So if you're cool standing for 2.5 hours, you can do this. Some Broadway shows offer it, some don't. You can ask at the box office for that. If you do this next thing, I will be so mad at you. I can't express it enough. Do not come here and go to chain restaurants like Olive Garden, all right? Olive Garden's all over the US. There's no reason for you to come to New York City and have Olive Garden. Try some of our amazing boutique restaurants, our Michelin restaurants, our gourmet places that are run by families. These are the gems of New York City, and New York City has some of the best food in the world. Check out my guide on where to eat in New York City. I have so many suggestions. I even have a map with my favorite restaurants throughout the city that you can take with you, and that way when you're feeling hungry, you can simply pull it up and see what restaurant I recommend near you and just go there instead of going to a chain restaurant, please. Whatever you do, make sure you see New York City from the water. It's one of my favorite ways to see it because it's so beautiful. And for that, I recommend taking a classic harbor cruise. I've been going on these cruises for over 10 years. I even had my 30th birthday there and Bella's baby shower with them. So I'm a big fan, you could say. And the reason is because when you're on the water, you get to see the skyline like no other. I really recommend their statue and skyline cruise. With this one, you'll go during sunset, you'll see the beautiful colors changing, and then you'll see the Statue of Liberty up close. But Classic Harbor Line offers a whole variety of different types of cruises, from brunches to wine and cheese pairings to chocolate cruises. And even during the holidays, they do jazz cruises and holiday music. It's so much fun, and it's a great date night activity. One of the most common mistakes I'll see people do is not be aware of the tipping etiquette here in the United States if they're coming from another country. Here in New York City and really across the entire US, it's customary to tip about 20% when you're dining at a restaurant. Now keep in mind, this only really is a very essential rule. Like if you tip, I would say you could probably get away with 15%, but even that is like, what was wrong with my service? But if you tip under 15%, it's actually considered very offensive to people. I understand why people from other countries do get kind of annoyed at this rule, because they're like, well, why do I have to pay the servers? Shouldn't that be the restaurant? It's just not how it works here. The servers work almost 100% for tips. They get paid very, very little hourly. I think it's like $6 an hour. So they're fully relying on tips to pay their bills. So if you don't tip them and they were a good waiter, it's pretty much a slap in the face. There are some exceptions to this rule. So when you're at coffee shops or really like any vendor, like when I bought this water earlier, they had me sign an iPad and it said, what tip would you like to leave? You don't need to leave a tip there, okay? That was just like a cashier. That is like become standard to ask for tips for situations like that. You don't really need to tip that, okay? So don't feel obligated to do a 20% tip on that. Only if you're sitting at a restaurant and you have a waiter coming to you to serve you. That's really the main time you tip. The only other times I would say that you want to tip is if it's like a service. So if you have a tour and your tour guide did a good job, it would be customary to tip around 20%. An Uber or a taxi, tipping is acceptable as well. If you're getting like your nails done, your hair done, tipping is kind of a requirement, I would say there. But just keep those things in mind. 20% is the golden rule and you will be good to go.
There are so many more tips that I want to share with you, but we don't have enough time in this video, so check out part 2. It will be linked below.
And that's it. Now you're ready to conquer New York City like a pro. Remember, the professionals use these tips, so keep them in your back pocket and subscribe to my channel for even more information on cool things to do in New York City.